Welcome to Friday Takeaway. It is Friday, October 7, 2016. We're in the fourth quarter of the year, Max. How time flies.
Yes, correct. And of course, Chuang, before we go further, it's a World Smile Day today, in case you didn't know. Celebrated every first Friday of October. You've been smiling.
Is that why you're smiling at me now?
Yes, correct. Smile and the world will smile with you, right?
Exactly. So anyway, we've got 85 days to the rest of the year.
Yep.
Till it's done. We've got that's the amount of days that the corporate earnings have got to come in.
Yep.
But let's look at the international circles now. And Wells Fargo, the hangover from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is ongoing. We saw Mike Stumpf, the Wells Fargo CEO, being grilled in America, the Senate committee. They've been hit with a $185 million fine. Just desserts, I think, if you ask me.
If you look at the Deutsche Bank CEO, he has been given a lot of support, Jamie Dimon, to German staff, saying that
Stumpf is a quality human being. What is wrong with him?
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, they were accused of bundling products to their account holders. Right. I think 8 was the minimum account holders per client in Wells Fargo. And of course, as we know, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is the biggest owner. In fact, that's their biggest stock holding.
Right.
They've got 10% of Wells Fargo stock. We'll be talking about that later. They've lost $4.7 billion just this year alone on that stock holding. That's huge, even for a company that owns Walmart and Coca-Cola.
Yes, correct. And of course, if you look at the shares for the Wells Fargo, down nearly 17% toward this year, and 10% off with the settlement of the CFB. And of course, Deutsche Bank also having some settlements with the US regulators as well.
Correct. So you can imagine that stockholders of Berkshire Hathaway are going to have to deal with lower returns this year because they made Berkshire Hathaway made $4.8 billion from their holdings in Kraft. Okay, sorry, yeah, exactly, Kraft Heinz, but they have lost $4.7 billion on Wells Fargo. So their net gain from those two stocks is just $100 million.
Right. Okay.
So that's interesting. Okay, what else is happening out there?
We have the 1MDB probe who will be held responsible, and the plot thickens, Chuang, And today, if you look in the our paper, it says in here that Malaysia has yet to receive the second request by the Swiss authorities over the 1MDB probe. The company has been probing from US to the Switzerland and all the way to in Malaysia itself.
They have been well probed.
Yes, very well probed. And of course, the Swiss has alleged that there is a Ponzi scheme going on. The Ponzi scheme fraud involving some 800 million worth of transfers that has been flowing into the Switzerland financial system.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Max, we've got the Swiss authorities, the Singaporean authorities, the American government, except that in the land where it's all perpetrated,
the Boleh
allegedly, everything's fine and hunky-dory.
I mean,
Curacao.
The sins have been absolved, I think, in here. I do not know. I mean, but that has yet to be seen. But then, if you look at the Swiss authorities, this is the second request that they've been making. Early in January, they've been making the first request, and it hasn't, we haven't returned anything to them yet. But interestingly, Singapore authorities, the MAS, has been responding very well to the Switzerland.
And of course, this week as well, repercussions on the metrics front. We have lost some momentum in terms of the ASEAN Corporate Governance Index. We've also lost some momentum in terms of the ease of doing business index. So, of course, these are World Bank and ACGN numbers. But let's move along to Perisai Petroleum. Now, this is the Malaysian Swiber, I think, in some sense, because we've had a couple of days ago, I think the credit holders rejected the board of directors' request to have an extension on the bond payments by 1 year. Bondholders said no. As a result, they've defaulted on the loan, on the bond, and the stock has been savagely sold down.
Right, and it has been bashed all the way down. And if you look at the CIMB, the CIMB is receiving coverage with a reduced call and a target price of 8 cents for the stock. It used to be one of the high flyers, in the oil and gas, now being bashed down all the way. You got DBS, OCBC, and the UOB Bank, listed as principal bankers, and of course Malaysian banks. You have Maybank, RSB Bank, and M-Bank slated to do some provisions for impairments.
That's right. I think CIMB
books.
did some research, and they said that those 3 Malaysian banks, all things being equal, each one of them has an exposure of about 30 million ringgit to the Perisai Petroleum. But hopefully that's not the start of the dominoes that happen, because as we know, the oil and gas price slump has affected everybody, not just these two stocks. Okay, Bursa Malaysia at 10 a.m. trading at 1,664 points. Year to date, we're down 1.5%. On a 1 year return, though, that's on a 12-month basis, still up by 3.5%.
Correct, and of course, UOB Asset Management yesterday, when they launched a new fund, the United Global Equity Fund, they said that the Malaysian market or the Malaysian stock is very highly valued, about 18 times the PE as compared to other players like Hong Kong Exchange and also Singapore Exchange as well.
Yeah, I saw the story in the Age today. I think Francis Ng, he's the CIO. He was being quoted. Right. Of course, Malaysia is defensively, historically defensive, low beta market. So when things are crumbling all around it, I think funds try to, they park their money here because we've got the EPF, we've got the PNB, we've got the Co-op, to prop up the market.
Right. And if you look at the Alliance research, they're saying that the foreign institutions buying has been abated, because earnings outlook has been remaining bleak, and budget 2017 unlikely to provide a boost given the financial constraint, maintaining 1700 and 2016 target.
Okay, a couple of stocks that moved this week. One of them was Perak Transit BERHAD. They had a reference price of 15 cents when they came out. They popped on opening day 30 cents to 18 cents, but 30%. Then they closed at 21 cents, which is a 40% pop. So this is a bus company, which is the only, I think, integrated public transport terminal in Ipoh. And they've also got some departure bays. They've got a total building area. They can rent that stuff out. So interesting, I guess, but not many IPOs this year, so I guess they're quite defensive from that viewpoint.
Yes, correct, and of course they were raising a bulk of the portion to open up building a new terminal in Kapar and also in Perak as well. And if you look at the IPO price, it seems to be flying high as compared to the rest.
Well, they had a reference price, as we said, 15 cents. Today they're 19.5 cents, so they're still well in the good. Just want to point on Perak Transit, they've got about 6 or 7 sponsors and early founders. They bought stock at 10 cents a share. So there's a moratorium of 6 months on these sponsors. Okay, Sime Darby BERHAD, not one of the small companies.
Right.
The successful placement. They placed out about 5% of their total shares, about 316 million shares at $7.45, and today they're at $7.71. So people who subscribed to the placement, they're well in the money.
Right, and this is going to be the second largest, fundraising exercise that you'll be seeing in the stock market, about 2.36 billion ringgit, and this was the second after the IPO of Frasers Logistics in Singapore.
Well, you mean the second largest equity market deal in Southeast Asia after the IPO of Frasers Logistics in Singapore. But you see, the thing is, there's lots of things happening in Sime Darby. Today, of course, we know they bought some plantation land from INP. INP bought some property land from Sime Darby. So there seem to be some things happening at Sime Darby level.
Right, correct. Because you see, they need to do this gearings, which has been always an issue to talk about. They were planning to do REITs before, but it was called off. They wanted to do many things in Sime Darby to really reduce the gearing to a more good levels, reasonable levels.
Okay, so anyway, MIDF is neutral on this corporate exercise. They think that the plantation division will support earnings going forward with a strong CPO price. Okay, what else is out there next week? Quite a quiet week, I think. Just Malaysia IPI as well.
And also manufacturing sales, and of course we will see some earnings started to coming in, very slowly for some companies, and of course the economic data that is coming up, for regional market as well.
And a little bit further out, of course, the Federal Reserve meets at the Federal Open Market Committee and to decide interest rates.
Right.
And then the US presidential elections, I think mid-November. So all that to look out for.
And before we forget, Chuang, sorry, I didn't say about John. The US will be rolling out the new non-farm payroll today.
Exactly,
the job data,
jobs
that
data.
would be one of the important indicators for the Janet Yellen to decide whether or not to,
raise rates or not.
Yes, correct.
Okay, well, all that to look forward to. Anyway, if you want to catch more from us, go to theedgemarkets.com, or you can always buy the hard copy, the Edge Financial Daily, as well as the Edge Financial Weekly. Thank you for watching. Good night and good luck.